and welcome back to In Deep on FTR Radio. I am, you guys can hang out and chat with us at ftrradio.com/chat if you are not already. I am joined for the second half of my show by Michi Iljazi from Taxpayers Protection Alliance. Welcome back.
Hey, thank you for having me again.
Always. So we have a couple of things we want to cover. I have to say, everybody who listens to me on the show, who follows me on Twitter, knows I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And so I'm practically giddy about Star Wars. And apparently somebody got a little social media savvy with the Waste Book this year. I have to say, I was seriously impressed by the Waste Book.
Yeah, so Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona carried on the tradition of Senator Coburn, and he put out his Waste Book. It just happened a couple days ago, actually. I bought my Star Wars tickets the other day, too, so I'm ready for it. Yeah, I'm going to go see it in the Air and Space here in D.C., and there's 70
that's awesome.
IMAX. Oh, yeah. So he put out the Waste Book, and you're absolutely right. This is key because most of the time you see these reports come out from inspector generals and certain watchdog groups, and they're good reports. They're filled with information. TPA loves that kind of stuff, and I know you do too, and so do a lot of other waste watchers. But what Senator Flake did that was interesting and smart and really savvy, as you put it, was he parodied Star Wars, and he called it The Farce Awakens, talking about government spending, outrageous and unnecessary spending with this year's Waste Book 2015, carrying on Senator Coburn's tradition. And it was really smart by Arizona Senator Jeff Flake to do that because it really makes people pay attention a little bit more, and it gets more media generation that way.
Right. Well, to be honest with you, like you said, I know you guys love it. I looked forward to the Waste Book because I'm not normal every year and like to become outraged at the fraud and waste that happens with my tax dollars. But most people had never even heard of the Waste Book. No matter how many times I posted it on social media, Plus, it's a little daunting. I mean, God bless Tom Coburn for doing it and for bringing it to the Senate floor every year as he did. But it's very daunting when you open up this PDF that's just wall-to-wall text and, and it's just this repetitive, really frustrating bad news of what's going on. But Senator Flake, I am seriously impressed just by the presentation of the Waste Book. I have to say that this is like a whole new level of Waste Book. It has. I'm all excited.
Yeah,
I was going to say I'm all excited about this.
I encourage everyone to go to his website at flake.senate.gov and take a look, and it's right there on the front page. You can see they do a really nice cover parodying Star Wars a little bit with some of the things are illustrations that are used in animation are actually some of the things that are noted in the Waste Book. So you have, monkeys running in hamster balls on a treadmill. And if you look, there's a little monkey, and it's running on top of one of those little hamster balls. I mean, it's really smart what they do, but it's also very informative because you find out that you have $5 million to a program called the Help a Hipster, which is aimed at quitting smoking. $5 million. 17,500 for people to wear a fat suit for weight sensitivity training. I mean, these are things that government, $700, nearly $1 million. Nearly $1 million. This one is really good. Nearly $1 million to study college students and pizza addiction. When you have so many problems with what's going on in the country and the world right now, and we have a debt that's approaching $20 trillion, why in the world are taxpayers paying $1 million to study why college students like to eat pizza? I don't think anybody can answer that question.
Well, so I say earlier that it's really daunting, and so I'm terrified to tell listeners how long this thing is. But I would be remiss if I didn't. This thing is 290 pages of your money being wasted to absurd things like sheep in zero gravity. And I'm just randomly zipping through here. They did a study on dating, on online dating. That was $851,000. And these things sound like, relatively speaking, if you're used to talking about government money, small amounts, but they add up. Some of these things are unbelievable.
A fight club for shrimp, a grant at the Duke University, essentially among different types of shrimp, and having them fight. This is absolutely atrocious that we're spending. And again, if you ask people how much do you think that would cost, you go to the store and you buy your shrimp or the seafood market. How much do you think it costs to get a bunch of kind of different shrimp, throw them in a thing and see what they do? You think, you spend like $50. $707,000 for this kind of thing, and it boggles the mind, but it also enrages. It should enrage the mind too.
Right. No, absolutely. I'm sitting here laughing because of the absurdity of it all.
Yeah.
But that's because if I don't laugh, I'll put holes in my walls. I really, as a social media maven and somebody who practically lives an entire second life on social media, I have to tell you that by far I am most offended at not receiving the $2.6 million grant to figure out how to do the perfect tweet. How hard is it to go find a bunch of really popular tweets and deconstruct them? Personally, I would have done it for $1.6 million.
I mean, and you talk about the absurd, $2.1 million to promote tourism in Lebanon. This is a country that the State Department tells Americans, you better not go there because there are security concerns. And yet at the very same time, we're actually paying money using taxpayer dollars to promote tourism in the country. $1.3 million to study how a koozie keeps your beer cold. I mean, this is, it's just really, really, really eye-opening, jaw-dropping, and frustrating. And you're right. Where is my I'm a social media guy. I'm on there a lot. Where's my $2 million to come up with the perfect tweet?
Right.
I want to get in on this game, and that's really the upsetting thing, because this is money that's already spent, and this is in 2015. So you can just imagine what's already been shelved away and granted to be spent on for 2016. That's the real sad part about this too, that we're just going to continue to see this waste until, we see more Senator Flakes, and we see more reports like this. And there is another report, though. There is another report.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a second, because one of the things I want to really talk about this is none of these things. This is all waste. I mean, this is not like, well, this was a DOD program, and it tried and failed, and sometimes that happens or whatever. This is legitimate, absolutely not part of government's job in any way, shape, or form, throwing your money away. And, as much as I sit here and make light of some of these programs and I talk about how great the packaging is on this report, what we really need to have happen is, millions of taxpayers furious about this kind of thing. And so that, when it comes time for these things to get slipped into other bills and appropriations and things like that, and we re-up funding for some of these agencies, like millions of people to be angry enough to say, you're not spending my money on this garbage, because it's literally garbage that serves zero legitimate purpose for the federal government.
Now, wait a minute. Now I'm gonna say, what do you mean it's wasteful and it doesn't really make any sense? I mean, you have the National Science Foundation granting $851,000 to study Tinder and Hinge and online dating apps. I mean, this is important stuff, Michelle,
I'm actually reading $2.5 million for what is suspicious bar coasters.
Yeah, 60 million for Department of Housing and Urban Development, and it's for slumlords who get subsidies. Really ridiculous that the HUD is providing $60 million to essentially people who are having substandard housing. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And again, kudos to Senator Flake for not only carrying on the tradition, but doing it in an original way. And Senator Coburn was able to do that too. I mean, there was always some kind of hitch each year,
right.
And it got better each year. As they figured this was something that people were interested in, and it wasn't just a labor of passion for him, that he was doing it because he cared about it, but he wanted other people to take notice. But Senator Flake, I mean, right out of the gate, pretty much hit a home run, I think, in terms of the way that they're advertising this. It's right. Really good marketing by them, and this is important stuff.
Solar powered beer. Now wait a minute.
Don't.
Don't
go to the dark side. Don't go to the dark side.
Well, and so I have this fantasy that one day I'm going to open the waste book and it's going to be like 10 pages.
Yeah, like keep dreaming.
A girl can dream, right?
Yeah, keep dreaming on that one.
While we're talking about waste, you mentioned that there is another report, and Senator Lankford has put out a second report of waste. And I apologize, I didn't have time to go through these and see if any of these were duplicates, but I'm going to guess they're not.
No, so actually it's different. Senator Lankford's report came out just before the waste book, and he takes a different track in terms of what he looks at. We actually were lucky enough to have him on the TPA podcast this week to talk about the report. And I interviewed him and I asked him why he did it the way he did, because instead of just focusing on wasteful spending, which is great, I mean, there's plenty of it there, Senator Lankford's report splits it. He also takes a look at regulations and how much we're spending in terms of regulations and what they're doing to business and what they're doing to taxpayers. And there's about $100 billion in waste that's highlighted in his report. And there's $800 billion in needless regulation. So we're talking nearly $1 trillion. And like Senator Flake, in terms of how you want to, advertise this, market it, and make it more social media savvy and make it more interesting and people want to really take a look, it's not just a report. It has a catchy title. It's called Federal Fumbles, and it really does it in a way that goes with bowl season, college football season coming up, the bowl season. And that's kind of what the theme is there that he takes a look at. And the report is very detailed. And it was interesting because when he was on my show, he did say, but at the end, and everybody enjoy the bowl season. And I think that's because Oklahoma will be in the playoffs. They are a top 14 this year. So, but again, that shows that, Senator Lankford, freshman senator, he is the successor to Senator Coburn. He comes in, he carves out his own territory, he puts up a good report, and again, in $800 billion of needless regulations, TPA just highlighted a few, and my favorite is the llama licensing one.
The llama licensing. This is amazing.
You have the unfortunate incident of the llamas escaping that happened, that everybody freaked out about, and we watched it on TV, and the government takes a look at this and says, oh, well, now we can create a new regulation because of this. And that's what they did. And this is really a case of, never letting a crisis, however big or small or trivial or funny, go to waste. And that's exactly what happens when you see some of these regulations. Some of them are very well known, like the regulations for menu labeling that comes from Obamacare. That's $1 billion in just the first year that it was put out in terms of regulatory cost that will not only cost for the program, but the cost to businesses. And that's just 1 year. So really kudos to Senator Lankford of Oklahoma for coming on the show to talk about the report, putting out the report, and again, making it his own, doing something different. And he said it best when we discussed it. he said that I asked him, would there be more reports coming from the office? And he said it would be great if there were 535 of these reports every year.
Right.
Because certainly there's enough room to be in terms of how much waste. Every senator and every member of Congress could put one out, and they would all be different.
And they wouldn't be this massive, just for readers to know. This one is of actual content discussing the waste and duplication and things like that. It's 126 pages.
Yeah, and when you think about it, with all those members serving different districts in the House and all those senators serving different states, imagine how personal you could make it to your constituents to really go in and find out what impacts your state or your district. And that would be really helpful, I think. And certainly with everything that we see Congress wasting their time on, they could do that.
Well, right, and it's but you and I both know that people tend to not get involved in things unless it impacts them personally. A congressman producing a report for the impact on his own district, is targeting local pocketbooks so they can see what it's costing them, his own district, makes it a lot more actionable. And even if we didn't have 535, because you and I also both know that there are members of Congress who couldn't care less how much is spent.
On both sides, by the way.
On both sides, on llama licensing and solar beer. Solar beer thing, though.
Stop. Don't go to the dark side.
I just think that even if we had 100 people producing, showing what the impact is, and I don't remember which report it is, so forgive me. Like I said, I skimmed through these quickly, but it might have been Flake's report that pointed out that these programs on an individual taxpayer or family basis was costing taxpayers like $14,000 a year.
That's
that
correct.
Could be in their pocket.
That's correct.
And this is not for national security. This is not for highway funding. This is, not even for the things that government legitimately claims. This is for, zero gravity sheep and cosmetology school and studying Tinder.
And the gravity sheep is on the cover too, and it's really funny when you look at it. But you're right; it does impact taxpayers, and it would be nice if more people paid attention. And I always give the benefit of the doubt to working families out there because they've got a lot on their plate. But at the very least, the people representing them, they should care.
Right. Well, that's their job. I mean.
Yeah.
So I'm new to Texas. Like, I haven't gotten my poor representatives. I haven't gotten the opportunity to introduce myself personally yet. We'll put it kindly.
That was really good.
Wasn't that right?
That could have been the perfect tweet, actually.
I'm going to submit a bill. But what I would do, honestly, I would load this up on a thumb drive, roll down to Kinko's, print out a couple of copies, and be like, I know you've seen this, Representative, but let's walk through this since I have you for an hour.
Yeah, it would be good. Because honestly, let's be honest, even if Flake does what Coburn did and sits on the floor and rolls through this thing, highlighting the most absurd, your representatives are not reading this. I mean, unless this is a pet issue of theirs, they're not reading this. And so here Senator Flake and Senator Lankford have gone to the trouble to put this together in an easy to read, easy to consume package for you. So now it's incumbent upon you to pick up the phone, write an email, hold a town hall, pass out copies of this thing in some form or another to your friend, and make your representative answer what they're going to do about this stuff. I'm going to. Well, interestingly enough, it's funny that you mentioned that too about printing them up and giving them to, your neighbor and whatnot. When Senator Lankford was on the podcast, he also made mention that someone actually decided to sell his report. They're printing them online and selling them, actually. They're actually making money off of it. And he said, and he encouraged people, said, don't do that. He said, go and download it on my website for free. It's for taxpayers' consumption. But the absurdity of these things, it's just, people will pay attention if you can find a way to market it and you can find a way to make it interesting. And I think in both cases, they were able to accomplish that in some measure, at least. That really deserves a lot of credit.
Like I said, you and I both look forward to this, and this is something I plan. I mean, I plan to roll up on some legislators' desks, and after I make an appointment for at least an hour, and say, I don't want to talk about anything but what's in this book, and you tell me what you're going to do about it, and I will annoyingly sit there and take notes in the margins and everything. And I think taxpayers are responsible for their own involvement. So this is something they should be doing. So
this is a tool that they have.
That's right. They have. Here it is in your hands. Go forth and save yourself some money. Angrily. Get mad.
Lankford.senate.gov and Flake.senate.gov.
Go check them out. And I will be, extolling the high points of these over the next week or so, I would imagine, in my Twitter timeline and on Facebook. So we have one more thing, at least, we want to talk about, and we've talked about this quite a bit on the show, but we're getting somewhere. Yeah, the Internet Access Tax Moratorium.
Yeah, quietly crossing. Well, not really quietly, and you and me not very quiet, but crossing our fingers to see if quite possibly Congress can pass finally a permanent extension of the moratorium on Internet access taxes. It's a topic that you and I have really talked about a lot, and it gets into the weeds, but the basic, crux of it is that since 1998, the internet has been tax-free when it comes to access, with the exception of some grandfathered states. And continuously, Congress has had to pass legislation. Usually they shove it into CRs or spending bills that says, we'll extend the deadline. TPA and many other groups have always been pushing, nonstop, fighting for a permanent ban. This is something where Americans who go online every day, businesses who rely on e-commerce every day, need to have stability and clarity when it comes to the fact that they know that they will not face a new tax increase simply for logging on, whether it's on their phone, their tablet, their computer, their smart TV, etc. And now we're at a point where there is strong momentum to finally get this done. It comes under the guise of a vehicle that's not really being talked about, and that's the customs bill that's coming through the House, customs appropriations bill. And it's the Trade Facilitation and Trade Enforcement Act. Now, this is a bill that has some measures that deal with trade. It's not a perfect bill, but it does include the Permanent Internet Tax Freedom Act as a provision. And this is critical to get this passed. The House will vote on it tomorrow. And the House really, I think we're going to be okay because, we've seen this pass unanimously in the House over the summer. It's really the Senate that has been the foe on this whole issue. And we're not sure. Hopefully they'll vote Saturday or Sunday to get it rolling along. Because the fact of the matter is, with all the talk, we're likely to see an omnibus bill. It's probably coming next week. And you and I both know it's going to suck. I mean, right. I'm just going to say it. But it's going to pass. And the thing is, we have to use those opportunities when we know to get things that we can add that don't cost money, obviously. And if you can take some things out that are bad, that's great too. But this is something that could be included in the omnibus. And if it does pass and is signed by the president, this is a big win because it means now that those who are advocating for internet sales tax can no longer hold this hostage. So it would be huge if it can pass through this weekend, because I don't believe, and I correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I don't believe that the Permanent Internet Tax Freedom Act being part of an overall omnibus bill would hold it up. I don't think that would be a deal breaker.
I honestly don't think it would be either. As a matter of fact, what might hold it up, and I was probably going to get around to asking your opinion about this, is there are other provisions that are being tacked on to pretty much every bill right now by Democrats for the most part. And not solely Democrats, unfortunately, but there are a bunch of
there are some Republicans who don't like PITFA, but it's mainly in the Senate. There's a couple in the House, but the Senate is really the key battle, and I think that the key is to watch what happens this weekend. If the Senate takes a long time and drags this HR 644, the Trade Facilitation and Trade Enforcement Act, if they drag this out, it is likely because it's a fight over Permanent Internet Tax Freedom Act from, there's a couple of senators who really don't want it and support online sales tax, and that's, Senator Lamar Alexander and Senator Mike Enzi. They're big supporters of it. I mean, these are chief people who have been, chief representatives who have been lauding MFA and want MFA. We're fine to let MFA have its vote, but don't let it have its vote at the expense of internet access taxes.
Right. And so just and this is just for me, you guys, this is huge. I mean, stopping this, making this permanent is a huge boon to small businesses. And really, if you want your Republican representatives to stand behind that, we care about the average person and poor people, people who are already struggling to pay their bills. This is something you need them to back, because what happens if this doesn't pass and at some point an internet access tax is enabled is that it's not like there's a ceiling on internet access taxes.
No, absolutely not. There's 10,000 different jurisdictions.
That's right. They'll start low, and as every state or municipality decides they need more money, this will be one of the first taxes they'll hit to increase, because it will begin low, and it will be a 30-cent increase on your cable bill or your wireless bill, and that's how it will start out. And while that seems like it's not a big deal when it's $1.40 or $2.80 on your bill, it's going to be a big deal. So stopping this thing right now before it has a chance to even be born is our best shot. And because there is a large amount of support, your phone calls, it's just a phone call to your senators in particular, letting them know that what a big deal this thing is, would be helpful.
And I want to say this because I know that you are very involved and really major advocate for the new sharing economy and really things like Airbnb, like Uber, and really, you're a Bitcoin advocate, and TPA takes Bitcoin donations. But in this new age, as we continue to advance technologically and we find new ways for entrepreneurs to start a business, for families to actually get in the sharing economy, and for people to actually innovate and create, this is a tax that would absolutely devastate that kind of innovation. It really would, and it's key that we stop it if we can, which I hope we can do over the next week, because it would be really a big victory for taxpayers and businesses, both small and large, and individuals who use the internet every day. Education too, schools that use the internet. I mean, all kinds of things. It would just be a win all around. And
right.
I mean, we can get it, and I hope we can.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is it. You have to live under a rock to know what a huge part of the economy e-commerce is becoming, and what a huge part of entrepreneurship being online is. And there are enough barriers in place already to starting a business online or maintaining your side business, keeping your side gig rolling, without having to deal with the introduction of a new tax that even if you don't own a business is going to be passed on to you as a consumer from businesses who will have to figure it into their bottom line from now on. And then the horror show of what always happens when a new regulatory agency is in place or a new tax is put in place, is that it will invariably go up and up and up, and there are never ever ceilings placed on taxes. So this is a big deal.